residents of Cohasset. My name is Michael Milanoski, the acting town manager, and this is Office Hours. The purpose of this show is to provide the public with information as to what's happening in the town. A lot happens behind the scenes that you don't see in the day-to-day activities. Today we're going to be talking about technology, townwide technology. With that, I have our Chief Technology Officer, Rob Burnell, with me. And Rob was hired about 16 months ago to head up our technology program town-wide. This is a community initiative, so it's with the schools and with the town, so we can act as one community and have one system. To his right is Barbara Cataldo, the superintendent of the public schools. And Barbara, you want to introduce yourself?
Introduce myself? Yeah. Well, I'm the superintendent of the schools, and I've been here now 28 months and been working with Rob since he's come on board for the IT. And this year we brought on board to flesh out our program a little bit more Adam Sasso, who's a graduate of Cohasset High School. And so we've brought him home.
And Adam, what is your role?
I'm the video production and computer system technologies teacher at Cohasset High School.
So this is a new program?
Yes, it is.
And Barbara, why did we start this new program?
We felt it was something that was really needed in the district in order to keep up with 21st century skills, as well as we felt it was another opportunity for students to learn about videography, a skill-based activity that was not here in the past.
And Adam, being a graduate of Cohasset School, I understand you went to California and worked out there for a while?
For a brief bit of time, yeah. I was kind of feeling it out to see if it was a place that I wanted to stay and live. But Boston, Massachusetts, and Cohasset especially is my home, so I ended up coming back. Went to school in Boston as well at Emerson College, which is a great communication school.
So tell us about your background in videography.
Well, after high school, I went to Emerson College and was a major in video and film production, and it's a great program there, so I learned a lot of audio technologies, software, video technology software, and all of that's computer-based, so I had the computer knowledge as well from learning that software. After college, I was filming weddings and filming sporting events here at Cohasset. Actually, I was making highlight films for students that wanted to go to college to play sports.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then shortly after that, I became the video production teacher at Milford High School. I was there for 6 years before I came back here to Cohasset this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Thank you.
Rob, let me come back to you. You've been here again running our IT systems. You helped develop our new information technology plan for a townwide plan. Before you start talking about what you inherited when you came here, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. One of the nice parts about my age is I really grew up in the computer age. So when I first got out of high school and started into some college career, that's when the personal computer was first introduced to the world. So it was really kind of nice to be able to grow up with technology as it's moved forward. From there, I did a bunch of field service engineer work. So it was a lot of working on the fly, being out in different companies trying to fix equipment on the fly, which sometimes it really teaches you to work on your toes, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. In 1996, when I left that company after working for 14 years, in 1996 I started a company in Milford called Data Frontiers to supply computer support and solutions for small and medium-sized businesses and government and education. And that's really when the computer really started to hit education, really started to hit small and medium-sized businesses. And grew with that up until I sold the company, what is this now, in 2006? When did I sell it? What year is this? 13, 3, 10. So I sold it in 2009.
How many employees did you have working for you at your peak?
I was upwards at 40 at one point.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you ran a private company that
Yep.
you owned and were
Yep.
managing 40 people,
Yep.
plus going around troubleshooting for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and government entities.
Correct. We had really three divisions. The standard technicians that would go out and support local area networks, provide solutions. If a company had a problem that they wanted to solve with technology, we'd come in and supply that solution. As part of it, we also owned our own network center. Mm-hmm. So with web hosting, email hosting, offsite backup, DSL lines, T1 lines, all that, as the internet grew, all those services we provided as well, and that was kind of division number 2. And the third division was PBX systems, phone systems, for small and medium-sized businesses as well. So it was nice to be able to go into a company and provide one company with all their solutions when it came to technology. So it was a nice run. I did it for 13 years before it was time.
So let me fast forward. When you came to Cohasset, we were just talking down the hallway, and part of Cohasset was running on a 14.4 baud modem at the time in some departments. We had computers that were dozens of years old. We had backups didn't exist, and we had passwords that people had to the network servers that had left the town 5-10 years ago and still had active passwords they could get on over the internet. So my question to you is, when you came working for Cohasset, tell us what it was like when you first came in here, and if you had to write like an audit report as to what consisted both the town and the school, give us the top 5 things that frightened you.
In my entire IT career, I've ensured that I have never lost one iota of data. And that's what concerns me the most. I've seen people lose their data in the past for various reasons, and it's not pretty. And so that was one of the things that really scared me the most. And it especially came to the forefront in this town. Within the first month of being here, the police department, running on some very old equipment, their server had a meltdown. So it had 15 years of records management that came to a grinding halt because the server died. One of their hard drive, the main hard drive in the system, was dead, wouldn't even spin up. So it would be 15 years of data gone. So that really summed it up in the first month that we have some work to do. So we're able, with some work, and I won't go into a long sort of story, we were able to recover all that data back, then move their existing server onto what's called a virtual machine so that they can continue running. I think they were just down for a day and a half over the weekend. I had them back up and going by Monday morning. So that was kind of the theme throughout the entire town. It was running. There was various vendors throughout town supporting every department. There was no...
How many vendors did the town have?
Probably 7, 8, 9 in that range. There was...
Is that just on the town side or town and school?
Oh, that was just the town side. The school side had various outside vendors, outside contracts that the existing tech director was working with at that point. But town-wide, there was no grand plan. There was no plan for where are we going to take Cohasset into the future and how are we going to get it there. So really the first couple of 3 months, other than playing firefighter throughout town and making sure that business kept running and education kept running, was starting to look at where everything stood. And the first thing was research. Where is everybody? How do they do business? It's very hard to come up with a plan because every town runs a little bit different. It's very hard to just say this is the way you're going to do it until you find out how they run business.
Were these vendors even talking to one another?
No.
Were their platforms even talking computer-wise to one another?
No, there was no connection between departments at all. There was the start of it with the introduction of a new financial package into town, which was kind of good timing because I came in right about that time when that was starting to be instituted. The timing was good with the move to Shrek for regional dispatch. So the timing was really kind of good, actually, when we came in town, so we could kind of guide that into our grand plan.
Let's see. You mentioned the police server, and that was a major issue. On the school side, what did you find as far as the age of computers, even town-wide? I mean, what was the type of equipment we were operating under? And what version of Word we were using, or Microsoft at the time?
Throughout the town, there was nothing consistent. Not just the school side. Throughout the town, there was nothing consistent. There was different versions of Word, different versions of operating system, completely different pieces of hardware, some HP, some Dell, some IBM. It was all over the map. For support purposes, that's just wrong. If we get to the point where we can keep the support costs low and move the IT forward, the best thing is to have the same hardware and the same setup throughout town. And that's very doable, and that's what we've, as we know, started over the last few months.
Was there software we even had fully licensed?
No, it wasn't. And I'm very big on copyright infringement. It's something that, as me personally, I have some issues with. So that was one of the things that we documented to find out what we could clean up. And at this point in town, it didn't take very long for us to get that straightened out. So all our licensing is completely up to date with everything that we have. Some of the licensing we were borrowing off some other organizations that supported the town. It really wasn't right, so we've cleaned all that up as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was your first 3 months, kind of the assessment,
Yeah.
trying to being the firefighter, going around and just trying to keep everybody up and running, let alone just saving 15 years of criminal activity from the police department. At that point, you started to put together a town-wide IT plan with the superintendent and myself. Tell us, describe to the public what that IT plan consists of.
Well, the first part, as part of the research, was really documenting what we had, and then looking at the locations and purposes that hardware was being used for. Because in any good plan, you just don't wipe everything that's in existence and replace everything new. No one could afford that anyways. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some long-range plan to institute new hardware or move hardware around into places that it makes more sense, so you're not buying new hardware. And then putting a plan in place on how you're going to keep all this going and not getting behind the 8 ball that Cohasset's been over the last 5, 10, 15 years, where there was no plan on how do you keep all this going at a reasonable cost. So it's spread out over time.
Let's describe your policy for moving equipment around. Mm-hmm. Particularly when you have, intense users that need high-powered equipment versus less intensive users.
I'd like to answer that with kind of an example. Okay. I think that would be the best way. But again,
Barbara's going to grade your answer, so just make sure it's a good answer.
I was a straight A student, don't one of the parts of that research is, like I said, is figuring how you do business and how every department, which is completely different, even within the town hall, the needs within each one of those independent offices have different needs. So as we move forward and documented what the needs are for each one of these departments, and honestly, this was done a little bit faster. I'm going to step back a little. The data collection and what each one of the departments needed, honestly, some other people had done some studies already in town, mm-hmm. and that lended a lot to what I needed to do. So there was some of that work I didn't have to do that was kind of already done for us already. So I know Cohasset was kind of headed down the right path already. So they just needed someone to champion. So that's why this worked out really well. So to give you an example, we have a library in town that has no server. It's all independent computers on the public side, and on the library administration side, that's done through their association. So on the public side, there was no real way to control it, and there was some security programs that were put on machines to try to do it, just not the right way. Mm-hmm. The town hall has purchased a server a year or two before I was here, on the right track, and it was in preparation of the SoftWrite program. The school system had no new servers and probably 10 or 11 individual old pieces of equipment that needed some work. So it was kind of a domino effect here. We bought a new server for the school system, virtualized all the old hardware, and without going too far into virtualization, basically you can take an old piece of hardware and run it as a machine inside one piece of hardware. Mm-hmm. So it just looks like one piece of hardware to the outside world, but it really is housed inside. And you can run 10, 11, 12 servers in this one piece of hardware. So then I was able to take that server, one of the old servers that we bought, and move it to the town hall, and take the old town hall server and move it to the library, because they all fit into the plan a lot better than the existing pieces of hardware that were there. Mm-hmm. Another example is an attempt was made in some of the labs in the school system to do what's called virtualized desktop, and that means you don't really have a computer. It's just a monitor and a keyboard and mouse, and another piece of device feeds the display to them. It's a great idea and works in some situations. The situation in the school system it was used for wasn't the right fit. There was lots and lots of problems with running specific applications with that virtual desktop. that's a perfect situation for public machines for the library. So
Mhm.
that's what's in the plan now here over the next few months, is to take those virtualized machines and move them as public machines in the library for no cost. That's ultimately what I like doing, is not spending money. Take the equipment that's already bought and put it into places that it can be used correctly.
Mhm. Well, in that scenario, basically, if you weren't watching the dollar amount, you could have bought 3 brand new servers. In this
Correct.
case, you only bought 1, and you just the domino effect moved those
Correct.
to the other 2 to
Correct.
satisfy the need that was there. You know, I've been around, you know, working many weekends, and I see that you're putting in 12+ hour days, and you know, here on Saturdays and Sundays, and doing things remotely. How much time do you put into this?
Oh.
25 hours a day.
I stopped adding. The nice part of any IT job is there's a function of it that has to be done in a building. It has to be done with the people, with the hardware, and then there's a function, especially with a lot of the software packages, specifically in the school department, but it is in the town setup as well. There is a lot of applications that run a school department, and when I got here, none of those applications talk to each other. So you'd have to enter student data into one application. You'd have to enter student data and teacher data into another application. The alerting system, then you had to enter the data into that again as well. Made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what took a lot of hours during my first year is to make the master program, in this case iPass, really be that master program, ensure that the data is correct, because there was data all over the place inside there. So that was all cleaned up. And not that the school system did anything wrong, and I want to state that. It's just that there were lots of different people overseeing different parts of it, and what happens, you know, the data ends up being all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So with 1 or 2 people in control of how that's done, you can make that now the master software. And then we've set up routines for the data to pass in and out of this package to all the other machines, to all the other servers and all the other applications. So all that redundant data entry doesn't have to happen. And then that cuts down on data entry mistakes, and it makes the data better. And with the amount of reporting that a school district is required to provide the state now, it's off the
enormous.
Charts. It's just
Enormous.
it's almost a full-time job. And it was a full-time job prior to this past year. We've made some changes with the software packages. We've made some changes with personnel, and we've been able to cut that redundancy down to almost a sixth of what it used to be.
So it sounds like with the townwide IT plan that you created, the one community plan, you've had to go back and rebuild the infrastructure to make sure that all of these different modules, if you will, start talking to one another.
Correct.
And it seems like that in and of itself is almost like a complete reboot to the entire town.
Oh, it definitely was, especially the connection of the town together. Because in the past, there was no connection between school department on a physical network layer, between the school department and the town hall and the police department. And there was a start, and honestly, Cohasset was pretty forward thinking on some things that were really terrific. And one of
Such
it
as?
is the fiber. And very few towns, especially towns this size, have buildings interconnected with fiber, which is terrific for our plan.
So how many buildings now are connected with fiber?
The police department is connected to Deer Hill. Deer Hill is kind of the center for fiber. So it's connected to Deer Hill, and Deer Hill is connected to Osgood, and Deer Hill is connected to the middle high school.
Was the police department connected to Deer Hill before your arrival?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the fiber was there.
Mhm.
It wasn't connected to anything. So the fiber was already put in, but
So you had the wiring there, the fiber there to be able to connect
right,
it.
but there was no physical connection
And
going
the next
on yet.
steps are to connect town hall and other external buildings
Correct.
to Deer Hill,
Correct.
which will
Correct.
serve as the hub.
Correct.
Okay.
And kindly, town meeting was good to put that money forward, so that we can continue with that plan. Yeah.
Okay, and we're getting some state money in there to continue moving this forward with more redundant fiber they're running around town.
All right.
So talk to us about what else was in the townwide IT plan. So you had to do the backbone, get the fiber all working, get everything connected.
Right.
What are the other main components of the plan?
The next big step was the upgrade and replacement of some very old equipment. Battery backups, hadn't had batteries replaced in years and years and years. So infrastructure-wise, that had to be done. The next step was on average, the years of age of the day-to-day workstations that are on desktops, where it was way behind the eight ball. So with money that you were able to procure with the town and with town meeting monies, we were able to start that process of upgrading workstations. And again, it was another situation. We didn't have to buy as many as we thought we might have to because of reuse, because of taking equipment that had been purchased and upgraded and putting it in the places that they should be. So at this point, we've done 100 plus laptops and we've done 200 plus workstations. And my original plan that I put forth with the Board of Selectmen, there was another round. And with the reuse, I'm really rethinking about that. We've been able to cut down the number of new workstations we may have to order as a big chunk. Now I want to put it into a year-to-year, this is how we keep the whole project
A maintenance
going.
plan.
Yeah, exactly.
So X number of years, we need to buy X number of dozens of computers just to keep a rolling
To keep
cycle.
it rolling, correct.
So we don't get into a
Correct.
position where we're buying 300-400 units.
The nice part, in the past, that was really should have been a 2 or 3 year cycle. But computer hardware has far outpaced what we really use it for. So really, these are on a 5, 6, 7 year cycle now. So we're really in a good stage because nothing's really pushing this hardware to be any better. So the equipment we're putting in now really has a 4, 5, 6 year cycle on it right now, as it looks right now.
I think we're going to cut over to one of the new computer labs that you've done. Can you describe what's in those in the school right now?
Sure. One of the computer labs that we upgraded in the Cohasset Middle High School was one of those thin client labs. Doing some of the 3D modeling and 3D dissection software. It just, the virtual desktop just wasn't made to handle those type of things. So reset it up, redid the configuration to make it better for the teaching staff because they had some issues with the way it was originally lined up. It took some more wiring work and more setup work, but in the end it makes it more educationally sound. In the midst of all that, we have been slowly but surely rolling out what we call a 21st century classroom as well. And that is our technology today has replaced the overhead projector, has replaced the chalkboard, has replaced actually it's done some things that we couldn't do before, and that's 3D modeling with document cameras. So you can actually look at things in a three-dimensional format.
Took away our TVs and VCRs as well.
TVs, VCR, right?
Wow.
All that with really 3 pieces of equipment that slowly but surely we're rolling out throughout the entire district. Deer Hill is about 90% done with that 21st century classroom. So that means every teacher has the laptop that runs all their equipment. They have a mounted projector that used to be on carts and a safety hazard and difficult to work with when they used a cart-based projector because kids stand in front of it. It doesn't work. It functions, but it's not the best way. A wireless document camera, so that they can project now on these on the equipment, papers, projects, whatever they need to. Much like you do with an overhead projector. And then at Deer Hill, we were also able to finagle into the end of the year budget last year a centralized wireless sound system. So it's one of the issues you have with some of the 21st century classrooms is you want to do a research project and it requires a video and you're trying to play it out of these little teeny speakers. It just doesn't work, especially if a student has some hearing impairment. So with wireless overhead sound systems, we're able to build them into the classrooms as well.
Did you say something about the Mimeo that allows us not to have a lot of whiteboards that we had
Oh,
allowing us to have movement in the classroom that we didn't have before?
Good point. As part of that chalkboard, there is, the term is an interactive device. Basically, we have an electronic chalkboard. So you can write on this whiteboard, even though it's an electronic ink, an electronic chalk. The learning capabilities of that are astronomical, and some of the curriculum that goes along with it is terrific. Engaging for the students, it keeps them involved in the classroom environment. We have a generation of kids that are interactive, and if we don't move our classrooms to an interactive and engaging environment, we're going to lose them. So I'm very big on the 21st century classroom movement, and the school district and the town's been very, very very supportive of that.
Right, and a lot of the new curriculum that has come to us, for particularly at the elementary level, the new Reading Street, the new Envision Math, and Italian letters and so forth, so much of it has a technology piece tied to it that the current technology now that we have in place is allowing the teachers to fully use the programs, whereas in the past they could only use it in part because of the lack of technology or the inefficiency of what we had. And certainly one of the things that Rob and I have talked about, the fact is that everything that was done over past years was done with great intention, but there didn't appear to be one particular plan that brought us all together. And now that we've been brought together, we are collaborating, but it's making the process so much better.
So from the student's perspective, and we're talking, I think, Deer Hill at this point, tell us how that's affected their educational experience.
Well, they're very excited about learning, that's for sure. Our teachers are very excited as well. You know, we're giving them the professional development. We'll continue to give them the professional development. But we have some teachers in particular that have been very creative with technology, because there are some, it's not to say our more seasoned staff aren't creative, but we have some very young teachers coming in who have grown up with the technology versus some of us old timers who've had to kind of leap on with it. So as a result, they've been able to embrace it and find ways to incorporate it into the class. That's where we get to see it particularly done with the iPads that we have. We have several trays of iPads that are used throughout the school, being shared currently. Again, at the high school, one of the things that I found would be really exciting is the thought of having this videography class, which is why when Adam Sasso came on board, the first day, let me back up and say during the summer when the lab was being put in and kids were coming in and looking at it, they were very excited. But on the first day of school when the kids came in, their mouths were gaping as they came through the door. And now you can come into a classroom like that and see the energy and ask them, the students, which I have done, I've gone in and asked the students, what are you doing? And you can get an entire book about what they're doing. It just shows that it's very lively, it's very engaging, and it enhances what they're doing. Doesn't replace it, it's not meant to replace it, but it allows them to be active 21st century learners.
Well, speaking of myself, with having a son in middle high school, one of his teachers, I believe, is called a reverse classroom.
Flip classroom.
Flip classroom, where the teacher actually provides the lecture online, and my son sits home and watches the lecture and writes down all his notes. And then when you actually go into the class, he's actually having the discussion on the issues instead of just lecturing. It's more interactive. It's more involving the students to get more involved, which it seems to be pretty exciting.
We're doing a lot of that. We're working with the Mass Association of School Superintendents and MassQ, which is one of the organizations for technology. That's occurring in a few weeks. And we go down and we see what's happening around the country, particularly in Massachusetts, and we bring it back in with us. But our teachers are very stimulated. And so one of the things that Rob was able to do this year, can I say, about the laptops here at the high school? One of the things that Rob was able to do this year is we gave all our content area classroom teachers laptops to begin the process of helping them to get used to the technology in order to help their students.
How is this going to compare to like Khan Academy? Is that really kind of the goal that you want to have the teachers going to that level of detail with their instructional time?
We're not sure how far the teachers will go. Obviously, we know what Khan Academy can do. It's a well-respected forum for kids, and even I've used it at home with my son. But we're looking to see what our teachers are able to do. So much of the curriculum that is coming into the classrooms today has a technology component that we can't get away from. And if we don't have the technology to work alongside the curriculum, we're keeping a piece of it away from the students. And I find that Cohasset has very high expectations. Our teachers are extremely talented, and it is in our best interest to make sure that they're fully equipped.
No, and I would echo that. The teachers are very equipped in this town, and they put the extra effort in, and that's we need to figure out ways of continuing to help support their productivity.
Right.
Absolutely.
Which is funny that you say that, because now that they see the direction that we're headed in the right direction, they want it yesterday.
Yes.
You know, in the
absolutely.
past, they kind of haven't expected it, right? They haven't expected it, so there was no big push. Now they love where we're headed with it, and I mean, I was just answering emails this weekend. Yep, we're doing it. That's where we're headed. And in fact, if you want me to bring that, one of the next steps is for communication to the student body.
Before
is-
you get into that,
Yeah.
I want to go back on this point you just made there, because just as you said, the teachers expect it.
Yeah.
They've seen it, they
Yeah.
like it, they
Yeah.
want to have it.
Yeah.
If the only complaint that I get around town right now from the technology is, we all want our piece too.
Yeah, right.
And I'm trying to say, well, we have Rob in charge of this. He's working 60 hours a week. He's working the weekends. He's working from home. He's putting out as much information as he can, but we were so backwards
Right.
before as a town-wide, because none of the different components talked that, everyone wants a piece of you. And there's even a wanted poster for you over at the police department.
I believe that.
When there was a week where they didn't see you, they actually put a wanted poster.
One thing I will say, I'm going to jump in on before you speak. One of the things that I will say about the fact that when you think about it, 28 months ago, we didn't even have wireless. So when we think about what our homes have and how savvy our students are with the understanding of technology, and then they come to school, no wireless, no updated computers, no technology. So the first thing that I got was the wireless, thanks to CEF and a grant. But then 16 months ago, we got Rob.
Yep.
And it's night and day.
And I will say, I think the statement's been made, it's taken us 18 years to get to the mess that we were in a while ago, and it's going to take us another 18 months to get out of there. And basically, we're a funnel, and the funnel's half full right now, but that spout's still tight, and it's probably another 4 or 5 months before you're able to get everything flushed through.
Especially, and you two have heard me say it a million times, I hate spending money. On one of the things that just internally, I want to make sure that when we get to the point where we have to hire some help, and if it comes a point to build out the department bigger, I want to make sure that when I come to you for that employee, it makes sense. I don't want to hire somebody today that in 6 months, once I'm done getting the infrastructure and the network set up, that we don't need anymore.
Yep.
That, to me, that's a waste of money. So
And
it's going to take a little while to get to that point, so we know how many hours we're going to need, what talent level are we going to need. Is it an instructional technology person that we need to help the teachers? Is it a part-time person that we need throughout the town? As you know, I have my thoughts as part of the technology plan, how we get there, Adam being one of those pieces.
Key
Yeah. Right.
having you here
So-
and what you're doing.
I mean, you've been able to hire some interns to help you over the summer. You're going to be starting that. I think they just started back again from the VOTEC school. We can talk in a few minutes about what Adam's going to do with teaching students to actually be part of your squad, if you will, to go around. So all those things are happening, but your point's well taken, is that even though the workload is so high right now, it's a temporary high workload.
Right.
And to go out and hire someone to come in and then have to lay somebody off is not in the town's best interest. So basically, we have to extend the implementation period a little bit to fit it all in,
Correct.
which is what you're doing.
Correct.
And I interrupted you.
On. But with regards
You were
to
talking about next steps.
Yeah.
so as part of the technology plan, once you get the infrastructure in place, we're working on getting the workstation infrastructure done. We're really done, other than a couple of rollouts of some virtual servers into some of the departments. Then the backup scenario happens. The interconnection between all the buildings is underway and happening. Then the next step is, what kind of support level do we have for this? What kind of support do we need? And honestly, with the way networks and computers and servers are these days, those support hours really aren't that big. In the past, it seemed big because none of those controls were put in place on the network. None of the security patches and updates were automatically rolled out. In the old setup, you couldn't do it. It was impossible. Now, as we move forward, those security patches roll out automatically to the equipment that we have in place. The offsite backups, which is, not only do we have local backups now, but we also do offsite backups to a network center in Worcester. So our data, if we had a disaster in Cohasset, we can take over at homes. Then we can set it up so that you can get to that data and continue town business, even if some disaster happens.
Right.
Which didn't happen before.
Which definitely didn't
Right,
happen before.
and proof of that was just a year ago when we had Hurricane Sandy, and there was so much destruction in the town, and I was caught in California, you folks were here, we were still posting to Facebook, we were still getting messages out to parents, we were still communicating, because one thing we had, and it was on the Facebook statement over and over from folks outside of town, our servers never went down. everything stayed up, so we were able to communicate, unlike some of our neighboring towns.
Yeah, and I think the police department did a great job in pushing that information out there through the Facebook page, which is the next thing that we're also going to be working on. I have one more question for you before I go to Barbara and talk about the one-to-one initiative, and Adam and talk more about videography and what he's going to be teaching the kids as far as the tech class. Another major investment the town's going to have to make is in our phone system. Can you quickly describe what the current state is in our phone system, what we need to do, and kind of talk about some of the cost savings that'll be there from an operational standpoint?
Right. Phone systems have evolved much like computer networks have evolved. And most phone systems really now are computer-based.
Yep.
It's not that standard huge box on the wall that most of us are familiar with seeing. In this town, if we go through a couple of the buildings in particular, when I came into town, the police department has probably one of the oldest phone systems in town. And 6 months before I came to town, I guess there was a lightning strike. It took out their voicemail, and they got a quote for $9,000 to fix it. And obviously, everybody said, we'll do without voicemail for a while, because that was kind of ridiculous. Vendors like to make money, and I was there once. But as a long-term vendor, you try to partner with clients. So we ended up coming into town. When I ended up coming into town, one of the first disaster recovery type things that I wanted to do was get that system going. So because of the background in my former company, we were able to get that voicemail system up and going for, I think it was like $1,300. We found a used card somewhere and were able to bring that in.
The $1,300 included the programming.
Include the programming, yeah, right, exactly. And honestly, if we didn't get that going, we couldn't even have done the Shrek move, because that voicemail system and call transfer system is a very integral part of how voice data goes between the two locations.
But that card you had to buy over eBay.
Yeah.
It's not even made anymore.
No,
And my point in
yeah.
that is that our phone system right now is held together with duct tape and bubble gum.
Yeah. And the town hall isn't much better. We've kept that going. Again, one of the nice things, you've known the vendor that we're working with. He's an old-time Verizon guy. He's been through every single one of these phone systems. So he's great. He charges just dirt cheap. He just likes to work. So he's been able to keep that phone system going. The school side is a little bit more of a
Challenge?
Thank you. Good word.
So what's the goal? Where are we going to end up?
So ultimately, like we're doing with the computer network, we would like to get to the point where we have an integrated phone system. Some of the terms you'll hear out there is voice over IP or VoIP, and that is basically voice converted to a network architecture. We already have our network architecture. We already have the fiber in place throughout most of the town, and within the year we'll have the rest of the town hooked up. So we can move to that type of system with relatively short money compared to buying a new phone system for every single building throughout town. And then the
So one system town-wide.
Correct. You cut down on the hundreds of phone lines we have in town. You cut down on the add, change, delete costs, because all that stuff goes away with an integrated system. So that's one of the big next steps, as you mentioned, on the grand plan, that will ultimately save the town money by cutting down on the number of phone lines, make the town faster, stronger, better, honestly. You can answer phone calls if you had to. If a phone call was going to your office, you can program your phone to automatically send those calls and or those voicemails to your phone. So if you know you're going to be at the school system for a while, you can have it go to your cell phone, or you can point all your phones to Barbara's desk if you're going to be in her office and you don't want to miss a call.
Oh, I get a couple calls I'd like to forward to you guys occasionally.
Yes. Well,
Can I pick and choose what phone calls? Or?
Yeah, you can.
we would like caller ID.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is 2013. Caller ID was invented a little while ago. Our phones don't have that capability.
No.
So the end result is we'll have to do some capital improvement to buy a new system.
Mm-hmm.
The network system we have will allow it to go over those data lines, and the savings that we'll have will be cutting down, probably in half the phone bill to the town, because we have all these individual lines.
Yeah.
And we
Lines
won't
sitting
need
there
them.
doing nothing.
Absolutely.
Honestly, lines doing nothing.
Yeah.
Waiting for it to ring. So yeah, you can almost, typically with an integrated phone system, you can almost cut down off 80% of your phone lines. Because if you think of how many phones are actually making phone calls out,
Yep.
it's a relatively small number compared to the number of lines we have in town. So
Well, I will say that's a 6-digit number that we pay in the
it's
town
pretty
for
big.
phone systems.
I know.
And that should,
At-
and that's an
what are we
operating
paying,
cost that would,
$150 an hour, $175 an hour for phone support in
Yeah.
the school district? Because it's it is a pretty big system, pretty integrated system with the bells and the intercom system, but that all wraps into one whole new package.
Yes,
Good.
and needed.
all right, so that's on our capital plan. I know we've looked at that last year, but we needed to get the base information, the base infrastructure up and running.
Right.
And that's something that may be able to be done for 2015.
That's in the capital for 2015.
Yep. So Barbara, now to you. This one-to-one initiative. You've had a couple of different presentations on this. I've been to some of the school committee meetings where the school committee is behind doing the one-to-one initiative. What is a one-to-one initiative, and why does it benefit the students, and why should we do it?
It's funny because Rob and Louise Demas, our curriculum director, and myself, we were just having a conversation about that. So the one-to-one initiative, the idea is that it should enhance learning, allow our students to be 21st century learners, be able to take the technology, integrate it into their learning, and be able to use it when, equip them to be out in the world in the 21st century working, more global. And 2 years ago, I made a presentation that, we're still waiting to get it off the ground. We had many other things to do. Basically, Rob.
You need a wireless to get it to work.
Yes, Rob wasn't there at the time. We had Apple Computer supporting us with it. We were looking at iPads. And at the time, we would have been one of the first districts on the South Shore to even move that forward. Now, amazingly, it's 26 months later, actually 16 months later, we're one of the few districts that does not have some kind of initiative on the table. Most of the districts have iPads on the table as their initiative. Some districts have other tablet brands. And actually, we're not sure, but we're looking at the idea of probably a laptop because of the versatility. But the fact is that while we have labs, those are opportunities for students to go in and do single lessons and other things. We certainly need to have that technology because with the upcoming park assessments that will be the change in the state mandated testing, we need those stations. But at the same time, we would like to look at doing an initiative where the technology is in the classroom. So for instance, your son who had the opportunity for the flipped classroom experience, he would go home, see that lecture, come into the classroom, and he might do something further with it on a computer or on a tablet that would allow him to integrate his learning. He would be collaborating with other students. It's a very different way of approaching learning. It's no longer that we line our students up in rows and we sort of do the old, what they used to call the drill and kill, or kill and drill, whichever order you'd like it in. But we're no longer doing that. It's really more of a process, a deeper understanding of their learning. And so with it, the technology allows them not only to do lessons for the future or look at the past, but in the present, they're able to pull their computers and do their learning right there on the spot. And as we know, I think you might have heard around town possibly the debate, should we be teaching handwriting or not? Yes, we should teach handwriting. The reality is that as students grow up and become adults, there are still things that they will have to fill out, and they need to know how to do the handwriting. But the technology is their connection to the world. And we see it as an opportunity for in-the-moment learning, where they're able to connect to the world around them through the internet system and doing activities and allowing them to investigate areas that in the old days, and I hate to use the term the old days, but those were my days, we would go to the library, take out the encyclopedia set, look at the pictures, write about it, and go to the copier machine and make a black and white print of the photo, cut it out, put it in our report. No longer, our students are able to, in the moment, talk to individuals from around the world and learn about global society as it's happening. So that is the purpose of having that kind of technological integration in the classroom. And we see it as a necessity at this point, as really all districts do, but we see it as a necessity to help our students go to the next
So
step.
right now, what I'm hearing is Cohasset is behind the educational trend on the South Shore.
I would believe so. I know that in Situate they have something. In Norwell they went one-to-one. In Hull they went one-to-one. So we're really sandwiched here not doing it.
So the laptop, you mentioned the word versatility. That would give them the ability of, doing Microsoft Word, Excel, having more, flexibility than just a tablet, so they can, expand upon what the limitations are a tablet, and you're not locked into one platform.
Yes. and the ability to go off and print very quickly and communicate. There are nice things about the tablet, don't get me wrong, because I do have a tablet and I love my tablet, and I know Rob has a tablet now. We all use our tablets, but there are times that we turn to our laptops because they're just far more versatile, let us do a number of things simultaneously that the tablet doesn't afford us.
And there used to be a cost difference. That was always one of the
True.
issues. Maybe we could do 1 or 2 tablets for the price of a laptop, but that's not true anymore. That's not that. The price of laptops, as we found, especially in volume, are dramatically better in pricing. But just to expand a little bit, for me, the greatest thing I like about the one-to-one idea is we get to do 2 things. We get to extend our education day, right, beyond the standard education day because they like it, and as well as we're going to teach them what they're going to get out there with education and in the commercial place. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to be working with once they leave this building. So.
Moving them a little bit more to the real world.
Yeah.
Our job is to prepare them, and the students, as I've said since the day I arrived, the students come to school desiring to learn. We don't have to encourage them to learn. And this would just be another step to help them embrace the 21st century global society so that upon leaving school, they'll be more prepared. In fact, it was amazing when I was at a conference over the weekend. I was in Washington, D.C., at a think tank of superintendents from across the country. And we talked about the reality of what come 2020, the percentage of students and why they need the technology in their lives, and the opportunities for jobs, employment of all sorts, what they need to have in their back pocket, really. And technology is one of the primary things that talks about the percentage of students that will be ready. Cohasset's in a place where we are ready, and we're continuing to prepare our students. We don't want to have that stagnate. Many districts are not where we are, but many districts have the one-to-one in now that we don't have, and we feel that that's a disadvantage to our students because they've been raised on technology, and at this point they can probably teach us many things we don't know. But it's at a point now where so much of their learning is tied to the technology. It's imperative.
So I know there's a bunch of policy questions that you and your staff are working on. My understanding is we're probably going to be looking at a price point of below $500 per unit. As this starts to move forward, you're going to have to figure out how many grades you're going to try to do in the first year to figure out that. I'm assuming it's going to be at least a few grades just to run through the test. You're not going to come in and do the entire district just because of the level of effort that has to happen.
Correct.
I'm assuming that part of this process is that after X number of years, the older laptops would revert back to some of the younger grades to kind of expand this, and you're going to be able to control content because everyone's going to be on the same platform, and that you'll be able to upgrade them wirelessly and put in the appropriate filters, whatever those end up being, is to what the administration decides to do. So there's still some policy questions that you have to address, but all of those are going to be addressed through that process?
Yes, and we've begun talking with the school committee as to what we're looking at. We introduced it in September. We did a little bit more in October, and each month we'll be adding on because realistically the target time that we see being critical is September 2014 to have it up and running, which means we have to have preparation time in the spring for our teachers, for our students, for the curriculum and everything that would have to be put in place because Rob might be Superman, but he still needs a few extra days every now and then to make sure it's all in place.
So in the first rollout in September, how many grades are you envisioning you'll be able to do? What's the goal?
Right now we're trying to decide which grades should be the target grades. We're trying to decide whether it would be a 7th and 8th, whether it would be a 6th, 7th, and 8th, or whether we'd look at the high school first. What we do know is it will not be the primary levels, K to 5.
Okay.
They have iPad carts that they're all working with. We don't see necessarily that that's a good thing to occupy students with the technology at that level. But we do see by the time they're in middle school and high school, it's imperative as they go off to college. It's mandatory in colleges. So we're really doing a disservice to our students if we don't give them every potential opportunity for learning how to integrate their world with technology.
Well, that's a great segue for Adam because Adam is going to be doing the videography class and talking about the computer technology class.
Yep.
As we start to train the students more for real world life, Want to tell us a little bit about what you're teaching and maybe some overview of the syllabus?
Absolutely. Well, now that you bring up the real world experience, I want to first put out that one of the most important parts of my job is conveying the career opportunities and paths that kids can take from the knowledge that they'll get starting in my classroom. So in the computer technology class especially, where I teach basic computer systems technology, so what's inside a computer, beyond what most people use a computer for, which is writing email or doing research or playing games, and what is in there and how does it work. And if you know that, if you have that knowledge, then it's going to open up already some new avenues for you. So I always want to tell my students that with each unit we do, I'll represent what kind of career path could go with that. Because things really are changing. The amount of IT jobs that are emerging, it's growing so fast. So what was a non-traditional career path before, non-traditional college major, which is now one of the most popular instead. So for my computer class, it's basic computer hardware, software, how it works together, what's inside it. We take apart computer, we put it back together, they get their hands on it. We do lots of research about emerging technologies. And for my videography class...
Before you get there,
sure.
I want to come back to Rob. You've had experience with technology classes being taught in a high school and junior high level. Tell us what we're going to see in 3 years from now after this class starts to take a role.
Yeah. We got off a little off track when we were talking about the plan and support. We this summer started using some of the South Shore Voc Tech IT students, interns, that we'll continue to use throughout this school year as well. But the ultimate goal and why we wanted to put Adam's position in place is he'll help start to create our own local tech team. Students that can learn in his classroom and then learn on the job, using them throughout the town, throughout the school district, so they can reinforce what they've done in his classroom to real world experiences. And for me, and my experience with this, because we have created this in other towns before, not only are we teaching them the hardware part of it, which in the end is relatively straightforward and easy, but we're teaching them how to deal with the human being on the other side of that monitor, which is always something that you just learn by experience. Yeah. And for me, that's the biggest thing they get out of it, is how to deal with the human being that's working on the other side of that piece of equipment.
And I know Mr. Buckley's class, he's trying to get the students involved in helping out a town hall or other things around town, just to give them that face-to-face interaction, so they can understand the issue, have the human communication component, and help try to solve the problems. Right. So I interrupted you. You were just leaving the technology and going into videography, and let's hear about that.
My videography class is a great class. The kids love it. It's a lot of fun because they get to make movies. But it's more than just making movies. There's a lot of elements that go into it, and there's always a research piece to each project that we do. So it's not just I give a kid a camera and say go create a commercial or a public service announcement. There's a lot that goes into it. So we're actually working on public service announcement projects right now, and we need to start that by having each group of students go onto the internet and research the topic that they've chosen. And in that, I have the opportunity to teach kids how to really use Google instead of just going and typing in the words. Most people don't know how to actually do in-depth searches on Google. So I have that opportunity. Then the kids get to research it, they get to learn all about the topic, and then we go into the production phase of writing a script, doing a storyboard, going out and filming. They get to take cameras home, use them with their friends to put together their video, and then they come back to my class and edit it on the software we have. It's a lot of fun. The kids really enjoy it, and I know after teaching for 6 years at another school that it will take off real fast here. The numbers are already going up.
No,
so
definitely has. So I'm going to interrupt and say that the kids come in, they are so excited that when you hear them in the hallways talking. Yeah. But if you go in the classroom, and we've brought some folks on tours in the classroom to see it, if you ask the students what they're doing, they can tell you succinctly what they're doing, what the project's about, why they've filmed something, and they get very excited about seeing themselves on camera.
Yeah. And the number of students I have this first quarter almost doubled in the first drop ad week once word started spreading around. Because when you just say, we're going to have this video class, they don't really know what it was about. It took that first week for them to come in, and they saw the Mac lab and all the cool stuff we were going to be using, and I told them what kind of projects we were going to be doing, and then word spread, they told their friends, and They switched out some different things that maybe they had some experience with already and wanted to get a new experience with the video class.
Well, if you're looking for projects, you mentioned public service announcements.
Yep.
I'm sure there's plenty departments in town hall that would love to have a quick little video put together as to how to fill out a building permit and what are the steps of that,
Yep.
or going to the transfer station
Absolutely.
and where cans, bottles, and other equipment needs to go. So if you're looking for topics, I'm sure we can find a bunch of topics
All right, I appreciate that.
that would provide for that public service
Absolutely.
announcement, where they can actually, lay out the logic so that the citizens in town know exactly what's being done and how to go about, whether it's getting permits or whatever it may be.
Yep. And even within the school, if we have a new technology for the teachers, for example, instead of having Rob have to give a workshop or go to each teacher to explain to them how to do it, if we can make a movie about that, that's on our website for the teachers to just go click play and then complete instructions on how to use it.
And you have experience with that because
I
we've
do.
done
Yeah,
that
we
in
did that a
a
lot.
different district where the bullying, the civil rights, all that training that
Straight.
you're right, all those classes and certifications that your teachers needed to take. We did a whole workflow as part of, and here would be iPass, so that you could actually document and report when they took what.
Exactly.
And they could do it on their own time. They didn't. We didn't necessarily have to pull them out of classroom teaching time to be able to do that.
Yep.
I'm sure even Chief Sylvia would be looking for public service announcements. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 50 times. When we had the Sandy storm, wires were coming down, okay? And then there was this big copper wire laying across the car. And the chief pulls up and the guy's out there picking up the copper wire and moving it. And he's like, that's an electric wire. No. See, there's no coating on it. It's just a guide wire. No. What happens is the electric wires, the copper, the sheathing comes off by the weather. So all the wires up in the poles, generally a lot of them don't have any sheathing on them. So it's just a pure copper wire running electricity through. Fortunately, it was dead. But the fact is there's little things like that that could be done. But to get back off that tangent, Barbara, from your standpoint, and let's close out with this, tell us from your perspective where you see this all going from the school districts. I mean, we've talked about different components, and what's the biggest transformation that you've had happen here?
I would say the biggest transformation is that nobody thought it was going to happen so quickly. Wouldn't you agree? Everybody is in shock, and yes, they would like it yesterday now that they've seen how fast it's been coming. And what we're seeing more is that, at least from our educational standpoint, that the teachers are looking for more opportunities to learn how to integrate technology into their classrooms. They're desiring to go to the conferences that will teach them. They're taking graduate courses that involve the technology. We're able to now purchase much more of the curriculum that has the technological component and not worry that it's going to be integrated well. I've been over at Osgood, I've been over at Deerhill, I've been watching the teachers working already with their technology and teaching the students and the kids. The students, which is what we're here for. The students are so excited when they see it.
I don't know if I told you, but I was, as you know, I'm not from town. Right? So I leave here to go get gas. And a couple of kids come up to me, oh, hey, you're the guy updating our computers and getting our network going. So they already knew. They already knew the face running around here, as they're moving forward. It was pretty funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what we see is so critical. And the fact is that we see that as the students come up, there'll be more and more to do in a way. It's not that it ever ends, there'll be more to do because as they grasp it at a younger and younger age, we're going to have to expand the field of what they can learn as they get older. But for the time being, we're in a great place right now. We might be lagging a little bit behind some of our neighboring schools in terms of what we have going, but we've come along very quickly, but now we have to go that last step and bring it into the classroom live for the students to make sure that they're being permitted to be competitive with their peers from around the area. Mm-hmm. And this becomes a critical piece of their world when they leave school and when they get into their work world.
Well, I'd have to echo what you said on the town side, is people didn't expect it to happen as fast as it did, and thank you for making that happen. Certainly they want more now because they've been exposed to it. What I keep on telling people on the town side is basically what the town government provides is a service industry. We're providing services to our customers, which are the taxpayers. And as we upgrade and get into our permit tracking software and doing more things remotely so people don't have to come to town hall if they don't want to, that's all part of providing this additional customer service and, from your standpoint, educating our children, which are our customers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, folks, I want to thank you for joining us and providing this opportunity to update the public on what's happening from our technology standpoint. And again, we will be having more of these meetings with the town manager's office hours, and we hope that these are informative. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact any one of us at any time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.